This is a great question to start off
I'll
Fans
be the
Forum.
judge of that.
Okay, I like this one. This is from Callan. He says, "Afternoon, gents. Just want to pass along a shout out to Uncle Teddy on his 46-year career. Without people like Ted, Saw, and Coach Quintera, I wouldn't have pursued my announcing career. Thanks, Ted."
Yeah, Ted had a good run. Ted was really different. Ted could be a, quote, acquired taste. I was at war with Ted for a whole bunch of years. That's we were just real different guys. But, there's a couple different sides to Ted. One is Ted, the TV guy. Ted was really different. Ted did TV sports like nobody ever did TV sports. And he came here and was allowed to do it that way. And I remember the first time I saw him on television. And again, I come from a football background, but I come from a baseball background, but I also come from a hockey background. And he says, this was one night on Channel 8, like it must have been 6 o'clock hour, prime time. He says, let's check hockey. And they throw him a video of fights. That's it. He's 20 seconds of fights. Yeah, the Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers as we check hockey. And then a big brawl. That's it. That's Ted on sports. No scores, no stories, none. And immediately dawned on me, nice shtick. And that was his shtick. And they used to give him volumes of minutes. I mean, I get 8 minutes on Saturday morning on KUSI because I do sports commentary. You ought to get your ass out of bed at 6:30 in the morning to watch me. If I got to be up at 6:30 and be on TV, you should be on TV. And yes, they give me a lot. They gave him 8 minutes in drive time on the old CBS 8, and he did really different stuff and some commentary, etc. That's where he really made his name. And then obviously he became part of the entourage of Padre baseball that eventually evolved into Ted and Jerry, and they were really good on radio, but Ted was different. Again, I grew up spoiled because I listened to the legendary Yankee broadcast of Mel Allen and Phil Rizzuto and Red Barber. And then I listened to a young Vin Scully when he was with the Brooklyn Dodgers and Les Kiter, San Francisco Giants, and that was more play-by-play. Ted did baseball when he was not doing a talk show in the middle of the baseball broadcast. Ted would talk. Here's a strike, here's a hit. So his style was a little bit different. Some people liked Ted. Ted was adored. Some people totally disliked Ted. I understood that one too. So it's okay. So he had a nice career. Health issues obviously impacted him, and that's why he exited the Padres and why he eventually had to exit doing play-by-play with the Aztecs. So,
isn't it interesting? There's a lot of colorful, sports media guys here in San Diego. I mean,
where?
Well, I'm talking to one right now.
Well, I mean, outside of Hacksaw and Teddy, I used to call him Teddy Lightweight. He would go crazy because he never covered press conference. All his press conference, I'd never see, this superstar below him to cover press conferences. So I started calling him Teddy Lightweight on the air. He did not like that for the longest
period.
Well,
you guys broadcast the Aztecs together, didn't you?
Yeah, for 1 year. That was an experience.
Yeah, you're probably just banging into each other in the booth the whole time.
No, we cut each other's slack in space. And I said, hey, it's not going to be a talk show. We're not going to argue. I'm going to say this. You're going to do what you want to do, and that's okay. But
okay.
It was the last year we were together. So last year the games were on our station. So that was that.
Well, it's just like whenever I'm on the road, I like to listen to a ball game, in any sport, and the announcers, the play-by-play guys are just really boring in most of American cities. And here we had Ted, Jerry Coleman.
Yep.
There were a lot of colorful people here.
Yeah. Our Padre broadcasts are really popular. I like Orsillo and Mud Grant on TV. Yeah. I think Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. do a really clean radio job, but each of them has their different style. But we're kind of blessed here. And again, I was spoiled because I grew up in the era of black and white TV, and I grew up with baseball on radio was really huge. I don't know if it's that way right now, but so he had a good run. I had a good run. We're all doing it differently now.
Okay. Love Uncle Teddy. Okay. And by the way, shout out to John Schaefer. I think he's going to take the baton for the Aztecs, and I think John's going to have a great career.
Good deal.
Okay. Let's go here to Flegel. He goes, hoping for some good news for Mookie Betts and his family. Last night's MLB article wasn't exactly inspiring.
What's scary? He openly admits that he's gotten sick again, and he's lost so much weight, and they can't determine it, and they can't treat it. Or at least they don't have the right meds at this point to try to figure it out. It's something from a gastro standpoint in his system. His weight's down to 157. He can't play a major league season. He can't practice without getting fatigued. How's he going to play in a game? So that's a real tough blow. Hopefully they're going to be able to solve this health issue with Betts and his viral infection.
Well, of course, the Dodgers probably have the best medical staff in Major League Baseball, so he's going to get all the treatment he needs. But it is weird, if you're feeling a little down, you still want to get on that airplane and go to Seoul or to Tokyo, excuse me, and then go to Tokyo for those games. But that the flight probably made it worse.
Well, he thought it was flu. He never got better. So doctors finally put him back on a plane with a trainer and said, "You're going back to Los Angeles." And they conducted more tests. And he showed up yesterday for the Freeway Series game where the Angels said, "I can't play and I can't eat. Every time I eat, I get sick."
Weird.
Yeah, very much so. So
yeah.
Keep him in your thoughts. He's a great human being.
Okay, this next one, I'm going to do it in 4 parts. Okay, the first 3 are quick. All right, this is from Seabreeze. Go Jets, go. Fixter, go Jets, go. Son of Dork, Jets win the cup. And then Carlos says, the LA Kings beat the Winnipeg Jets both times this year. They appear to be peaking at the right time, scoring 7 goals in their last few games. Is this the season Kings bring back Lord Stanley to LA?
Well, this is the old Canada Network, which is just pouring in from across the border. By the way, they are allowed to cross the border. Please send that message to the White House. They're my best friends. Kings have to prove themselves. Western Conference playoffs are not going to be easy. Now, Edmonton is dinged up right now. Edmonton's got a problem. They're a little bit concerned because Connor McDavid was having an MRI today on rib injuries after he got slashed. Draisaitl is hurt. The Stuart Skinner got dinged with what they feared might be a concussion. Does not appear that way. All of a sudden, Edmonton's got problems. Dallas is freaking loaded. Holy cow. And they're going to get Tyler Seguin back, and he's been gone with a hip injury all season. So you get another sniper back to go with the firepower guys that the Dallas Stars have. And, of course, they made the trade for Rentonen. The Kings are playing really well right now, and they need to continue to score goals. And Darcy Kemper he's been an unbelievable surprise for the LA Kings. I think the Western Conference playoffs are just going to be something. But Winnipeg's got 48 wins here. Winnipeg's not going away, even though they lost a couple games in the last week. And this whole playoff thing has got to go through the 204 area code, a.k.a. Winnipeg, Manitoba. And right now, the Winnipeg fans are just phenomenal. So Western Conference playoffs going really damn good. Of course, there's Florida over there. There's Tampa over there. There's still some teams over there on the Eastern Seaboard, in the Eastern Conference, you're going to have to pay attention to.
You know all the area codes.
Pretty much.
But it's interesting, too, between comparing, Winnipeg with LA, because in Winnipeg, the Jets are, with the exception of the Canadian football team, the only game in town, right?
Exactly.
And I would imagine the NHL team is the more dominant franchise in town. Where in LA, I mean, we're the Kings on the pecking order. They got to be like 5, 6, 7, right?
Yeah. But if you sell out the arena and they get hot, the Gretzky era with Barry Melrose as coach, because I traveled with them during that playoff run, the Stanley Cup season. I mean, they became front page news. Yeah, the Dodgers were playing baseball and the Lakers were playing, but the Kings with Gretzky, that was a phenomenal short-term run. And they had great success. It revitalized hockey on the West Coast and the Deep South.
Yeah. Yeah. I just remember when Gretzky came here, it like everything changed.
Yep.
And I got free tickets to go see the Kings at the Forum the year before we got Gretzky, or the Kings got Gretzky. And it was a fun game. It was entertaining, but it was just kind of meh. And then they get Gretzky and everything just blew up.
Yeah. I mean, that was an unbelievable team. That was an unbelievable trade. What a phenomenal run they had for a short period of time. But your window to do it is right here. And that window doesn't go forever and ever. So,
okay, let's keep moving on here. This is why I alluded to JBS third earlier. He goes, Lee, Julio Urias is no longer a Dodger. He's a free agent.
No, I understand that. But this all occurred while he was a Dodger. So you cover the story because it happened while he was a Dodger and a great young talent with the Dodgers. And he self-destructed. And so now he's got this 95-game suspension, which is the second longest in baseball history. Second only to Trevor Bauer, who had 194 games for all the toxic stuff that he got involved with and wound up going to Japan, going to Mexico, and now is back in Japan because nobody will touch him. I don't know if anybody would touch Julio. There's no doubt he's a younger talent, but he's been out 18 months, and I'll be interested to see if somebody signs him in Mexico, one of the Mexican Summer League teams to sign him to a half-year contract, so at least he can find his rhythm, etc. And you would hope that through the counseling that he went through for anger management and all that, that he's learned something. But he said he learned something the first time after the 20-game suspension, which was a shocker. And it's obvious he didn't. And I firmly believe alcohol had to play a part in this. So if he's got an alcohol treatment and somebody did an intervention, but he will not play for the Dodgers again, and be interested to see if anybody touches him.
If Dodger fans going, you're hating on the Dodgers, you're linking this guy back to the Dodgers, you hate the Dodgers. You could just hear the Dodger fans saying that. But you mentioned Trevor Bauer. Now there are some people that are saying, yeah, he pitched well in Japan and he did okay in Mexico City, but he still was getting lit up by the major league hitters like during the very end of his time. Maybe he isn't as good as some of us think.
Oh, but as a third starter in somebody's rotation, yeah, I'd take him. But I think his career record is 83-52. That's not bad.
No.
As a third guy in your rotation, but I'm not paying that guy based on everything he's done. I'm not paying him $30 million a year. But
do you think if either one of these guys signed with the Padres, I mean, the fans would be really pissed off.
Or would the fans be excited because that guy's a pretty good number 3 starter?
Yeah, there are some fans that are big Trevor Bauer fans that are convinced he got screwed, he got railroaded, he was,
set up.
Yeah, and so he deserves another chance. No one's saying that about Urias
yet, but now we know there's a time frame as to when the suspension is up. So, time will only tell. I don't think Bauer ever comes back. And in terms of Urias, maybe somebody gives him a kick at the can. I mean, he was 20-4. The prior year, and then I think he had a rib cage injury, but he got hurt that year after, and he wasn't quite the same pitcher because he was in and out of the rotation, on and off the disabled list, and then the junk in September of 2023. So he's been gone 18 months from baseball.
I remember he came up. He was still a teenager, wasn't he?
Sure.
When he made his debut. So he's probably in his mid to maybe.
I think he's 26 now. Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say 25 to 27 sounded about right. Okay, so let's keep moving. We'll go here to John. He says, hey, how about the end of that Maryland-Colorado State game? That was a nail-biter.
That was phenomenal. I could not believe Colorado State could play with those athletes. Maryland's got all kinds of guys. I mean, they got hired guns, and they got big, wide bodies who can explode and jump. And the last basket by Queen was phenomenal, although I tend to think he took 2.5 steps before he planted the foot and took the fadeaway jumper. He still had a really hard shot to make, but hats off to Colorado State. I mean, they really played well, and that's tough. You wake up this morning, and now Nick Medved has left as head coach, and he's gone to the University of Minnesota, but that happens a lot of different places. So New Mexico played beyond what I thought the Lobos could play, and they did that without a couple of their top players who jumped in the NIL. Just think what they would have been if JT Toppin had stayed there.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow. But I'll be intrigued to see whether Richard Pitino stays in Albuquerque. There aren't very many Division I jobs open right now. And Utah State, we hear, is losing their coach. He may be going to West Virginia because that coach jumped ship after just 1 year on the job. So a lot of moving parts in basketball right now.
One of the storylines right now that's dominating is that the Cinderellas aren't happening. The mid-majors aren't making the Sweet 16. It's just the power conference schools. But the other storyline that I thought was interesting that Ziegler brought up was that there's so few teams in the western part of the United States that are successful. And I think BYU and Arizona might be the only two that are alive in the Pacific Mountain time zone. And then I think the next ones in are like Arkansas and Houston. I mean, it's of the Sweet 16, it sounds like 3/4 of them are on the other side of the Mississippi.
Southern Fried Sweet 16, well, the Deep South. But end of an era. I hate to throw cold water on your March Madness, but the big boys can buy anybody they want right now with the way the NIL is set up, and they're going to come in, and every mid-major's got a great player. They're going to take them. They really are.
Well, I just remember really being opened up to the whole idea of mid-majors making a splash was in the it was the UNLV Running Rebels, but it wasn't the Grandmama. It was like 5 years earlier. And was that Stacey Augman, or I can't remember, was some other player that was really good? Or no, it was Reggie Theus, I think. And they had come out of nowhere. And I remember my fraternity went on a trip to Vegas and hooked up with our fraternity brothers at UNLV, and they were all psyched for UNLV. And I had always thought of March Madness back then was like all the Big East teams like Georgetown and Providence. It was cool to see Vegas on the national stage.
Oh, Jerry had great players. Holy cow. There was an entourage of years, but there was always controversy about who these kids are. They go into class, what kind of junk are they involved in off the field? And there were kids in casinos and kids in hot tubs, and there was a lot of bad stuff. And then Tarkanian was gone.
I remember the hot tub one. I
Yeah.
mean, that was with like some booster who was like really like a mob guy or a gambling guy or
You
something
think?
like that. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep bouncing around. And here Arnie has a number of short, quick comments, and I want to get a bunch of them in for you. And Arnie says, always like you and Lazovic saw.
Yeah, Jim Lazo, great co-host, is
Yeah.
part of our broadcast team. Linebacker he was a linebacker who was smart as can be. I mean, he's from Penn State, and he could talk and he could play football, and he's just a genuine, really nice person. And he became a popular TV sports anchor. Still here in town, lives in Coronado Island, plays a lot of golf.
All right, right on. Hanging out with Orsillo, probably doing
Yeah.
a barbecue out in Coronado. I want to get a few more of Arnie's because they're really good and they're similar and they're short. So Arnie says, really sad to see Bryce Miller pass. Died way too young at 56.
Yeah, very much so. Very kind soul. I think that's about the most unique way I could explain it. And radio guys and broadcast guys don't always get along with print guys. I got along really well with him, and I introduced myself, and he kind of knew who I was. And I said, this is what I can do. If you need contacts, whatever, let me know. And we'd cross paths at press conferences, etc. Interesting person.
It's funny, like the print guys don't get along with the broadcast
Well,
guys.
that goes back 1,000 years.
And then I'll just throw one more in here from Arnie talking about local media. It says Ted was good with the Colonel and doing San Diego State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted and the Colonel were kind of a fixture on radio. And they, at one time when I first got here, the Padres would rotate their guys from radio booth for 3 innings to TV booth for 3 innings. That was a weird combination. It wasn't any flow. But then they separated the whole thing because there were other guys that came in that became TV play-by-play guys, to the point where you are right now with Orsillo, and prior to that was with Dick Enberg, and geez, I can't remember the other names prior to that. But
Vasgersian.
Yeah, Vasgersian was here for 15 minutes, and I liked Matt. I thought he was really good, and he went to the MLB Network. So they separated the radio and TV guys rather than flip-flopping them, which I didn't think made a heck of a lot of sense.
Well, what's your take on guys like, Chick Hearn or Vince Scully that did the simulcast? They did radio and TV, and they covered it all, and they could give you what radio needed to paint a picture, but they could also do what TV needed.
Nah, I'm an old school guy. Let my radio guys be really good on the radio, and let the TV guys do it, because that's a different type of play-by-play. And I've done simulcast.
Mm-hmm.
I did both. And you're trying to serve your radio audience, but at the same time, you're talking so much on TV that maybe people don't like that. And it's tough to get a second guy to interact with you on TV if you're trying to do a radio broadcast. It's hard. I did it, and it was okay, but just a tough feel.
So when you're on the radio and you're on the radio, what are the things you try to do as a broadcaster?
There's a lot of information, and you drop the information in during the radio broadcast. What this team did on third downs and third and longs and all that. But when you're on TV, then it has to be coordinated, because then you got a producer who says, we got certain graphics. If you're going to make reference to this, we're going to be able to flash a graphic up. Well, now you have to wait, and you have to tell them, when I get a chance somewhere in the first quarter, if it's a third down coming up, I'm going to run through my set of statistics that I think are pertinent to this third down situation that the Chargers have. And now, so just be aware, when it's 3rd and 12, I'm going to talk about third down troubles or third down greatness, blah, blah, blah. You can fire the graphic, but that's got to be prearranged.
Right.
And the producer's got to be in tune to where I'm going to guide them. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. By the way, I'm always amazed in March Madness and in baseball, football, basketball, how the producers can get the replay ready so quickly. It's like someone's got to do rewind, record, get the clip just right, and then serve it up, and then probably tell the guy in his earpiece, hey, we've got the replay for you.
It's always interesting doing play-by-play with having somebody talking to you while you're doing play-by-play. That's kind of hard.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going here. Talk some boxing with Flegel. This Foreman became a close friend of Muhammad Ali and publicly expressed regret over the rumble in the jungle and the pounding he gave Ali before finally losing to him. Foreman said, Muhammad wanted to win the fight, but I wanted to kill him.
Yeah, they did. And of course, there was also was the Smokin' Joe fight with Ali. Man, what a war that was. What was that one called? Oh,
The Thrilla in Manila.
yeah, Thriller in Manila. There were so many great fights. And, the Foreman Ali fight is where Howard Cosell came up with the rope-a-dope. That's where that started.
That's a classic one.
Yeah,
Right?
Ali just kind of lay against the ropes and said, "Come on, throw me your best punch." And then Foreman go in with a flurry. Ali clinch with him, and Ali'd whisper to him, "Is that the best you got?"
It's what a grand era that was. And, I know we're focused on George Foreman and his passing and a special man, but Muhammad Ali, I mean, that dude is an American hero.
Oh,
I mean, and like in the 70s when he was fighting, I was too young for the initial part of his career. I just knew when his big comeback in the 70s and he had these big fights with Frazier, and that's all everybody was talking about. And then when he lost to Leon Spinks, everyone couldn't believe it. But the more I learned about Ali and what he did, here we go, politics, protesting the Vietnam War.
sure.
He really put himself out there. He went to jail, didn't
For
he?
4 years, he was out of boxing.
Yeah. I mean, so these dudes, I mean, where they come from, how they kind of form their whole persona, and Chuck Foreman and Smokin' Joe and Muhammad Ali. I mean, this is like the Mount Rushmore of boxing.
Yeah, concur. Because boxing after that became Jerry Cooney, Great White Hope, Great White Dope, whatever it was.
Well, I remember there was one. It was Tyson and Michael Spinks, and it was over like in 30 seconds. People got the pay-per-view and they just barely rolled up to the TV with their bowl of popcorn, and it was over.
Well, we went from the greatness of the heavyweight division, and as that kind of petered out, then we went to Sugar Ray Leonard, Stonehands Duran, Thomas Hearns. I mean, then there was it was a lower weight class.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Exactly. I mean, so that was the next entity of great boxing, but then they retired. And to me, the thing went off the charts, and it kind of went into the gutter. And then the Russians came, and the Klitschko brothers became the two global heavyweights, but nobody paid attention because their fights were always over there. And then the thing dissipated, and our boxing teams are no longer dominant in the Olympics. And then obviously UFC showed up.
Yeah, but UFC is pretty cool. I mean, if you kind of follow it, it's interesting also for each of these fighters in today's era, their backstory, where they came from, and it's international, it's really cool.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, that era, that was some era.
Oh, big time. It was huge. And it was before pay-per-view too. Yeah. They were always on TV on ABC.
Well, I was a kid growing up in New York. We had the Friday night fights brought to you by Gillette.
All right.
Yeah, man, it was a big thing. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here and talk to our friends over in social media, because we got a lot more over there. And okay, let's go here, talk a little Dodgers. And this is from Egon's. And he says, it all looks good on paper. The hitting looks to be one of the baseball's best. Remember, it's not a sprint, but a marathon. Staying healthy will be key. I'm excited to see what this squad can accomplish. Let's go, Dodgers.
Thursday at 1:30. I don't care what the hell you're doing. I don't want to hear about lunch. I don't want to hear about work. I don't want to hear about sex. Thursday, 1:30, baseball preview on this podcast. Dodgers complete team, Dodgers deep team, Dodgers young team. Dodgers got a lot of really good young players too. Awful big stockpile of raw talent. Injuries change things. And now you got the Mookie Betts illness as an issue. And I'm not talking in negatives, but what if Ohtani, the pitcher, can't be what Ohtani used to be? Or what if he has more injury problems coming off the rotator cuff surgery on the left sides? There's things here that have to play out. It's 162 games, but no different than anybody else, except they got a deep roster, and they got a ton more players than virtually everybody else.
It's interesting when in comparing the Padres and Dodgers is like junior varsity and varsity, but
don't insult Padre fan. Padre fan be blowing up here.
But the thing it's weird is like we're talking about the Padre roster and how you say wafer thin they are on the pitching staff, which is true.
Once you get beyond the top three that are healthy right now,
yeah. But the Dodgers seem to have they have the same roster limitations in terms of the number of guys on the list, but it seems like they've got 20 pitchers.
They got so many. They got 11 pitchers on the disabled list right now, all of them who could pitch in the major leagues for somebody if they were healthy.
It's insane.
I mean, it's just great scouting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's incredible how they check every box.
Exactly. Right now they do.
Okay, let's keep going. We'll talk Chargers here. This is with Gia Marshall. He says the Chargers got better by subtraction. All those players you listed that they lost were always injured, so they didn't play anyway. Puna Ford is the result of great Chargers coaching. He was a journeyman before this year. The floor is now higher for the Chargers, and just like last year, the superstars will be found in the draft.
Well, they're going to have to draft specifics, and at number 22, that specific might be speed wide receiver, or it might be legitimate tight end, because there may be 5 tight ends in the first round of this draft. It should be probably more offensive line help. They've gotten bigger and they've gotten more physical. But you know what? I'm going to say something different. I would have gone back in and talked to Joey Bosa about coming back on a lower price, because they got Khalil Mack back on a 1-year, $18 million deal. They were never going to keep Bosa at $25 million with a 36 cap figure. You come back to Bosa and say, you want to play here? We're real close to being really good. Come play on a 1-year, $15 million deal. And if you do and you do well, then we'll take care of the second year. But they never did that. They were tired of the injuries. They let him go. But they lost both their starting defensive tackles, and that's Bosa's gone, and Christian Fulton's gone to Kansas City. So, I mean, those are 4 integral guys that were real components to everything you tried to make happen defensively. The 2 young defensive tackles they drafted, they were not full-time starters at other places. They're young, they're cheap, but they're not proven to what they were before. I do think Mekhi Becton, in that right role in Philadelphia at right guard, he showed he could play. So now that offensive front looks a little bit different. And then they went out and they got the Raiders starting center, who's going to come in and compete with Bozeman for the starting center's job. But he got let go by the Raiders, didn't want to keep him. And that was part of a really bad offensive line. So we'll see. We'll see. They're going to draft at 22, and then I think they're going to draft at 50, 56 maybe as their second pick. We'll just see what they select. I really do like the running back. I think Najee Harris is a gamer. I mean, that's heavy duty. He's not explosive, but he's a pounder who can get you yardage. And when you average almost 5 yards a carry in Pittsburgh's offense without a good offensive line and really substandard quarterbacking, Pittsburgh's not had a good quarterbacking since Ben Roethlisberger retired. So I think Najee Smith is a good acquisition. Love to see him bring J.K. Dobbins back, but they've not done that. Now, maybe they're just tired of all the injuries, because he had so many injuries in Baltimore and he had 3 injuries here, even though in spurts he had good chunks of time. So we'll talk more as we go towards the NFL draft in April.
Why did the Steelers give up on Najee Harris? I mean, he's four 1,000-yard seasons.
Free agent.
But why wouldn't they re-sign him? I mean, because if he's that good.
Trying to change the offense. He's not an explosive guy. He's a pounder. Okay. I think they're looking for more speed guys.
Okay.
So
all right.
That's where we are. I think really good football player.
Well, it is interesting theory that Gia Marshall mentioned. You use free agency to get kind of solid guys to sort of fill some holes, and then you go for the big splash in the draft.
If you're a really good team, free agency can put you over the top with the right guy. Can't build a team based on free agents. That of course doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Just ask the New York Jets and what they experienced last year with Aaron Rodgers and with Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard and all the guys they tried to drag in. It just didn't work when you're paying everybody mega money, and then it doesn't work. Then you got cap hits to deal with.
And there's been so many superstar teams with all these big time free agents that fail. There's far more that fail that succeed, and that's true in all sports.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the 23 Padres. Oh my God.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Let's go social media here with Dodgers. And this is from Daniel talking about the evil empire. He goes, I still remember a few months ago when you said the Dodger way is broken. It was never broken. It was injuries only. And we overcame the injuries with grit and hard work.
You won the World Series. Yay for you. But at the end of the day, the Dodger way as it relates, I'm only making reference to the pitching crisis. I'm not making reference to the organization. I'm not making reference to wins and losses that season. It was the pitching crisis. They had so many pitchers hurt. There's something that needed to be re-examined. And Andrew Friedman admitted they spent the offseason re-examining. Won't talk about what they found as it relates to how they're handling the kids at Oklahoma City, how they're handling the pitchers that are coming off surgeries, things of that nature. I was only making reference to the pitching crisis. They had 19 different starting pitchers. Nobody in baseball does that. I think they had 9 surgeries last year. That was catastrophic. They had more surgeries in the offseason. They have 11 pitchers on the disabled list as we speak this afternoon. So, but they're, that's a deep organization. You won it. Congratulations. They're the team to beat again this season. They're not the evil empire. They've done nothing wrong as to the way they've conducted their business. It's a really good organization. You look at how many players they develop. That goes back to drafting. That goes back to philosophy. So, but I was making reference to the catastrophic epidemic with elbow and shoulder injuries, and the Dodgers have had more than anybody else in baseball.
You had a line, I remember, it was like 90 something trips to the injured list over 3 years, 5 years. It was something like that.
It was a phenomenal number of times they had to put people on the disabled list. It was, I don't know if it was 196. It was a phenomenal number.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, the Dodger way still works. I mean, you make up for it with all these numbers of this long list of guys.
Yeah. Just covering the story.
There you go. Okay, let's keep going. We'll talk some Padres here. And this is from Brian. He goes, every post you make is negative about the Padres. Just one man's opinion.
Well, we're sitting here dealing with the stories. I mean, I have to write and I have to comment on Yu Darvish having his third flare-up with his elbow in 3 years. Have to comment on Musgrove's injury. Have to comment on what just happened to Waldron. Bad luck as it is. I can't sit here and just say the world's beautiful. It's not negative. It's just I'm dealing with the stories. Padres have got 3 frontline starters right now that are rock solid. You hope nobody gets hurt in that group, because if anything happens to Cease or King or Pivetta, your world got a lot more complicated, because there is nothing at AAA. I'm not being negative. I'm just telling you this is the positive. This is the negative. I like the everyday lineup. But by the way, you need a left fielder that has to show you he can hit. Is there somebody that can replace Profar to do what Jerkson did, jump up and down after making the plays and hit 280? Until we get that answer, Brian, we got to talk about that. Brian, you're telling me everything's great behind home plate. You got 3 catchers, none of them hitting above 143. You're going to live with that during the course of the season? And you got to replace the whole bench bunch. Some guys had good springs. Some guys are hoping to have good seasons. So I'm not negative. Jeez, Pizzo. Holy cow.
Well, it's you got guys like this, like Brian. There's a bunch of them that say you're always down on the San Diego teams. But then meanwhile, when the Dodgers were about to be eliminated in the NLDS in Game 4, when the Padres were going up against a bullpen game by the Dodgers, you were saying it's all over for the Dodgers. And then they were saying, oh, you're like a Padre homer. Now these guys say you're a Padre hater. It's like, make up your mind, fans.
I'm covering the stories. Period, exclamation point, end of argument. But, Brian, Thursday, 1:30, do not miss. Do not miss the baseball preview he and I are going to do.
It's going to be good.
He'll be screaming again by Thursday, I'll guarantee you.
Okay, let's go to this next one about the NFL. And this is from Euphoria Deep. He goes, one thing I don't like about reseeding the playoffs, if you win your division, you should get a home playoff game.
Well, but a lot of people don't think that's necessarily right. I guess we could call this the Minnesota Viking rule. So Minnesota wins 14 games last year and winds up 5th in the playoff seedings because they didn't win the division, because they're in a tough-ass division. You get somebody who goes 8-9 and wins their division in a bad division and they get home field advantage. Doesn't seem right. I think the reseeding rule that the owners are going to examine next week, first week of April, I think that's going to probably happen.
It makes you wonder sometimes if divisions are still relevant, because like in MLS, there are no divisions. There's just the East and the West. There's like 15 teams in each block. And so, and then with basketball, do they have a Pacific and what's the other division in the West called?
Well, they got the Western Conference.
Yeah, the Western Conference. I know there's a Pacific division. I can't remember the name of the other, but those schedules are sort of balanced schedules, right? So it's not like you play your interdivision foes more. Yeah. So at some point you got to say, screw this division thing. You're just clinging to the past.
Yeah, but I think everybody likes some of that is historical in the past. People like that. Chicago Bulls, Milwaukee Bucks, Detroit Pistons, that goes back way in the day, back to the Malice in the Palace and the Pistons Bad Boys and Bob Lanier. And so, why do you want to blow that up? So that there's a lot of emotional ties to what was back in the day. So
follow the money. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, probably.
Because Philly fans, man, when Dallas rolls in, that's their regular season Super Bowl.
Yeah. So I don't think people want you to blow up the NFC East.
It's still weird, though, that Dallas is in that division because geographically it makes no sense. And they fixed the problem with the Falcons and the Saints being the NFC West, but they can't break down the Dallas one because
the history.
And I think there's just so much viewership that would revolt in Philly and in New York and in Washington, D.C.
Don't screw with the history, John. Jeez, oh, pizzo. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's a couple more here. And let's go here to Gloucester. LMAO, you're laughing my ass off. Get in line, baby brother. Everybody wants to come for the Kings. We ain't scared. We're ready more than ever.
LA Kings feeling really good right now.
No, this is a Dodger fan.
What's he talking about? I thought he was talking about the LA Kings.
No, well, he mentions Kings, but he's saying, because this is talking about Suarez being out of sync, the Dodgers are the Kings.
Best team that money can buy.
They are.
Where is that piece of paper? The one that says Evil Empire on it. Oh,
but see, the Evil Empire isn't the ownership of the Dodgers or the front office or Dave Roberts or the players. The Evil Empire is the fan base, or I should say a specific subset of the fan base is the Evil Empire.
Oh, it's good. Baseball season will be fun. Everybody, for the most part, starts the season excited. This is cool. And Padre fans, they don't talk about it. Padres as a player, it's like it never ever happened. This 24-inning scoreless thing that killed them last season, there's nobody wants to bring that up and talk about it. I'm sorry. It's a piece of your history here. You got to get beyond that. You can't ignore it.
Well, Sammy Levitt has been going around Peoria interviewing the players, and he talks about that with them. And he'll ask them, do you still have like a bad taste in your mouth of the NLDS, and you still got business?
Everybody in denial?
Well, no, they're like, yeah, we could have done better, but we're working hard, we're grinding, we're getting through spring training. We think we're going to be in the best shape of our lives. All the cliche lines. So they're getting paid. I get that, the professional angle of it. I just wonder how much of the passion for the rivalry did they have compared to what the fans have.
Oh, it became a great rivalry. Dave Roberts said the Padres have become our fierce rival. He said that's really cool for baseball, and that's a San Diego kid bringing that up. So that's kind of cool. Let's just go play the games. But that history is there. I think of that playoff series and my heart aches. I sat in a bar in upstate New York, a biker's bar, watching those games on TV, and just to see them go 24 straight innings without scoring a run and letting that series get away from my heart just aches. And that's, Padres, I think, got upset at me because they said, you guys are in denial. That wasn't a negative to your baseball history. Sure as well. Got short window. Can they be a World Series team this season? Boy, that's a tough haul considering Dodger Blues in front of you and what the Dodgers have spent, what the Dodgers roster looks like. And they have, to me, they got a short window to be a World Series team. It has to be this year or next year. How's it going to be this year or next year, considering who the Dodgers are?
Yeah, you're going to have Manny and Xander out there on wheelchairs at some point. So, yeah, they got to get it done. They have a good roster. They could win it. I mean, it's not like they're 1 through 6 in the batting order is pretty good. The bottom third of the order, we're going to find out.
And the bench and the thinness in the rotation.
But they've got Martin Maldonado. He's going to light it up. It's just, some of these cuts that they made are really weird.
Ever the fan. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this extended Monday bonus podcast.